Hey y'all, how are you all doing? First, I want to apologize. I am 6 minutes late. I am never late. On time is very important, it's very essential. Tonight, podcast, I'm going to focus on communication with the teenager. And you all see tonight, I'm holding the phone because I want it to be more of an intimate moment. And my son was going to join with me. However, um, as being a mother, you have to allow your child to make decisions. And I want it to be selfless versus selfish. I know I rescheduled the one last week with my son, as far as, him being on the podcast. But tonight he decided to go to DC to do something fun with a friend. Um, um, the this trip was something that was planned afterwards, but when I realized it was planned on the day of my live, I wanted to tell him no, stay. We already rescheduled, son. But I was like, you know what? That's the part that makes the conversations difficult with our kids is sometimes we put our feelings, our um wants and needs and our authority because we're the parent. But no, I had to realize that, this is the end of the summer. My son is about to go back to school. So he's in DC. And so he's in DC, he's enjoying himself. And I felt bad about, not letting him go simply because I knew that it would cause him to shut down, isolate, and even probably throw it up in my face later. Mom, you didn't let me go because you wanted me to be on your podcast. And that kind of leads into the purpose of the podcast tonight, which is how do you effectively communicate with your male teenage son? And it's different with males and females. And so usually I have a guest on my podcast, but tonight I'm not. I'm not. I was going to use other teenagers because I just wanted to talk from the teenage lens. Things are different when we talk from when we look from the teenage lens versus ours as adults. But I just decided to go ahead and just do it by myself. One thing I was looking at, you all, is I was looking at some material, and this lady said that is one thing that as parents, we have to see if we have that heart to heart connection with our children. Eric Erickson's the psychological development stage pretty much explains what the child's psychological development should be at that age. And for a teenager, it is identity versus role confusion. This is where your teenager is starting to identify who they are. They are starting to figure out pretty much if they're a leader or a follower. This is the stage where some are really bullied as well. They are about to go into young adulthood at this point. And so I have a teenager. He is 15 years old. He will be 16 in December. And I often ask him, EJ, why is it that you act differently around me, but around your friends, you are very vibrant, you are alive. And don't get me wrong, he is who he is and he is like that. And I get it as his mom, there are boundaries and um he's not going to act a certain way or play a certain way around me like he would with his friends. But I noticed that when my son became a teenager, our communication wasn't the same. Um, we don't laugh the same like we did before. And he's the one that loves to joke. But I found out in our conversation that he said, Mom, you're too serious. He don't want to disappoint me because I'm always finding a way to lecture him or teach him a lesson because, and I'm not pulling a race card or anything with this, but our Black teenage boys, they will have to work a little bit harder mentally, psychologically, emotionally, physically, trying to fit in And this is to be a fact for our male teenage boys. And again, I'm not pulling the race card. I'm just telling facts, right? And so for my son, I always try to find a lesson in everything. And for him, he tells me that it takes away from our relationship. He understands why I do the tough love with him, but I try to teach him things because mommy won't be there all the time, right? And so I try to prepare my son for when he's out here in this world with society that would eventually life will try to take him by the hand and show him their way. And I get it. I have to let him fail and fall. But while he's under my roof, I would try to instill those morals and values in him. And so the lady today was saying, she's a life coach. As I was looking at some material, she said, as parents, we fail to have a heart to heart connection. I want you all to ask yourself, do you have a heart to heart connection with your child? Do you? Do you have a heart to heart connection? We often say, I don't know why he acting like this. He's ungrateful. He's lazy. He don't listen. All you should do is, you don't have anything to do but clean your room, go to school, get good grades, take out the trash. I say that too. You have it made. Back in the day when I was young, I didn't have what you had. Things were different. But you all, life is different now. Music is different now. Technology is different now. Society is different now. Things are different. And so with that, as parents, we have to adjust. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't lose your morals and your values and what you instill in your children. We have to be a little bit more sensitive with listening to our kids. And so that's that heart to heart connection. We often say, um, all those clothes I bought him, and again, I'm staying in the teenage male perspective. I just bought all those clothes for him, those shoes. We look at all the physical, tangible things that we do for our children, right? But it's the memories, it's the time, it's the one-on-one. Like for me, I have a 6-year-old too. And my son just recently told me that he feel like since his younger brother is here, he has lost that one-on-one time with me. And I remember, of course, he was my first child at the time. So I remember we did our one-on-one time. I remember that we would go have our mommy and son day. And so my son connection with me started to decline. I allow my son to have a safe space to talk to me because, as you all know, the suicide rate is really increasing with our teenage boys. They're being bullied. They are fitting in any way that they can. I mean, there was an incident recently, and of course, I never call names, but I just relate to these stories and I reference these stories when it's relatable to the topic. We have young boys. When you go out to college, our teenage boys, when they graduate from high school and when they go out to college, they are in a total different space, right? The expectations of school, the expectations of fitting in at the college. You have our young boys who are very successful that go and kill themselves and commit suicide because they can't take the pressure. And if parents, if we don't allow our children a safe space, who can they talk to? We've already lost them with the music. Think about it. Who signs most of our guys? Our young boys. See, we see the surface of who has them, but sometimes the labels, they see that music that they can use with us to put back into our communities. You all, I listen to my son. He he listened to rap music, and when I'm around him, I look and I say, "Did you just hear what the rapper said?" He'll he'll say, "Ma, it's just a song." You're right, son. It's just a song, but I'm a true believer. that what you digest, what you put in here becomes a template and it becomes embedded. When you're put in certain situations, you're going to deliver from those things that were imprinted in your mind. So when you hear a song from somebody talking about things they have been through, or when they were angry, I use and I don't know about a rap song, so I'm not quoting one, but I use my Glock to shoot this NIGGA in the streets. And I mean, and I say, son, you okay with that? And he's bopping to it, and yeah, and all this. I'm like, you okay with that? Mom, it's just a song. And I always use a teaching moment. And I say, son, if you're listening to this, you're loving it. You are becoming a part of it. If you're put in a situation, what are you going to do? Because a lot of times, think about it, you all, when you go to parties or when you go to an outing, they can play gospel music, right? People come and, all my people that, spiritual people, you all going to really be into it. But when you put that rap music on, I'm talking about rap music is not how it was back in the day. Now, it is vulgar, it's disrespectful. I can't stand the bitch word, right? Our teenage boys hearing that. I can't stand the HOE. Our teenage boys hearing that. I can't stand the NIGGA. Our teenage boys saying that. I hate to hear a teenage boy say bruh to his mother, to his father. When I hear that, or they say things like you capping, that's when you've crossed all boundaries. Tina, all of that stuff that we are allowing, and I get it. I can't stop my son from listening to it, so I allow him to listen to it, right? And I say I can't stop him because I have to keep in my mind that I'm still instilling those morals and values in him, and I'm using those moments to teach him, to show him, look, EJ, just because you're listening to it, son, please don't use that as a guide. That's not anything I want you to do, because it breaks my heart to know that when he listened to it, when he leave me and go out and hang with his friends, like when that song come on, when those songs come on, my son is jumping up, he's excited, he's turned, he's happy. But what if you're hanging with your friends and you're at a party and that, I remember one song, Nook, if you buck, Nook. I think that's how it goes. Again, y'all, people joke me all the time because I'm not good with rap music. I can sing a gospel music all day long. I love R&B. Again, I'm not against that good hip hop music that told the story, that talked about people narrative. But this music now is the same. Even the women are singing the same things and doing the same things. That's another podcast. But you see, when our kids see that, they emulate that. When our kids see that, they see these people, these rappers, as role models. They see them as somebody that they want to be like. I remember when I was young, I didn't want to wear plaits to school. I felt like I was gonna be picked at, bullied when I went to school, right? About how I looked, my appearance, the way these rappers dressing now. Keep in mind, they're role models to our teenage boys. They wearing hoodies in 90-degree, 100-degree weather, right? Because they want to have a hoodie on like them. My son would never wear stacked jeans. My son wants to wear stacked jeans now. When I asked him to put those on before, he looked at me like, Ma, what? Now my son wants to buy stacked jeans because one of the rappers wearing stacked jeans. Again, I don't know who that rapper is. I don't like that type of gangster rap. I don't like that disrespectful, vulgar rap that calls women bitch, call women hoes. You all can feel how you want to feel. I'm just telling you what I don't like. When my son was growing up, I never let him listen to any rap music. I never let him listen to any cursing. If I ever cursed or said something, I would spell it out if I was communicating with someone else. But when he got to the point where he understood what I was spelling, it changed. My son is 15, about to be 16. So I know that I have to release my son to the world when he become a young adult. But as parents, we have to learn to have a heart to heart connection with our children. And that's why again, my son was supposed to be on tonight, and I rescheduled from last week to tonight. And again, I didn't want to say, no, son, you can't go to DC, with they're like family to us, celebrating a birthday, because I know that my son loved them and wanted to have a good time. But that part of me wanted to say, no, I want you on my podcast tonight. I really need people. People are inboxing me, say, hey, they missed me last week. They want to see you. They really want to see that mother and son communication, because we were going to go raw and live. Like, I really wanted to ask my son these questions. Son, why is it that it is difficult for you all to communicate as teenagers when you're sad or when you want to talk about things? And I have asked him that, and I will bring my son on. It just won't be tonight, but the conversation I had with him 2 weeks ago, it hurt my heart. Like, I literally cried, because I know I'm hard on him. But I fear releasing my son. I do. And I know as parents, you all do as well. But I have to. And so my son told me, he said, Mom, a lot of times parents don't want to listen. He said, you all say what you say, and that's it. You all don't want to hear what we have to say. We feel like we can open up better to our friends who can relate to us. And I thought about that thing. So you know what? When you share a commonality with somebody else, like in the military, my battle buddies, I can talk to my battle buddies about anything, because they walk that walk with me in the military. It's difficult for me to open up to people that when I talk to them, they're going to ask me 1,000 questions or give me those reactions I don't want. What? You went through what? No, I want to talk to somebody who understands what I'm saying. So when I heard my son say that, again, that's the heart-to-heart connection. Keep that in mind. I asked you all in the beginning of the podcast, do you have a heart-to-heart connection with your teenage child? Because if you don't have a heart-to-heart connection with them, you're already lost. At the teenage years, it's hard. It is hard to reform them. Their brains, their brain, their thought process, everything is pretty much set. You can work on it, but at the teenage years, it's either you have them or you don't have them. And if you don't have them, somebody else is going to get them, like other negative energy, other organizations, I don't even like to say, well, I can't say gangs, because gangs used to be good back in the day. See, gangs were that type of brotherhood. But now, the gangs now, they're forming their own little cliques, and they're turning on each other. Every day you turn on the news, every day you turn on the TV, or every day you turn on the radio, a teenager, you having 13, hold on, let me go back. 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds with guns, killing each other. You right, Quita, the streets will have them. They will have them, and they will swallow them up, spit them out. And so their heart-to-heart connection is, as the parents, we have to be the ones, we have to be their biggest advocates. We have to be sensitive and vulnerable enough to have those vulnerable conversations and listen deeply as to what they're talking about. We have to look at it from our lens. That's how you deal with people, period. If you look at things from your lens and your perspective, it will not be the same. See, we're not in the same era where when your parents say, why? Don't ask me why before I slap that hand go up, or they look you in your eyes. No. We used to get paddled by our teachers. They gave permission. Now children know what our limits are. They know what our limits are. I was listening to an influencer today. I can't remember her name. I tried to save the video so I can share it. I'm going to do it on one of my other podcasts because I really want to talk about these teens, because the communities and the churches and the villages, we have to help our children. This podcast, I'm talking about our teenage boys. We have to. This influencer, she broke my heart this morning when I was listening. She said, "You all are quick. The world and the society today is so quick and evil and nasty. And you want to talk about people, but you have not lived in my house with me and my son. My son has a mental illness, something that our culture don't want to talk about. We want to sweep things under the rug, or what goes on in the house stays in the house." She said, "But see, I am an influencer because I want people to know that I am real. Depression is real in our kids, in us. They watch us. They watch what we go through. They watch what we handle. I went through these things with my son." She said, "My son is gay." She said, "Yeah, I have to support my son. Yeah, I might not like it, but guess what? I have to support him. And that's why it was hard for him to come out." She said, "But my son is about to graduate from high school and go to college." She said, "And because my son can't have his way, my son has reported that I sexually assaulted him." She said, "You can do anything to me, but you don't ever lie on me to get the world to turn against me." She said, "You know what happened and I know what happened." She said, "We went through it when you were young and as a teenager, but you came to me and we talked about it." But see, the key thing is, she said, we talked about it recently. But at the end of the day, who are we to judge anyone or each other? Nobody knows what goes on in people's houses. We wear a mask often. See, our culture, we're built to be tough. We have been through a lot. Our grandparents, our great grandparents, our ancestors, they all fought for us. They were tough no matter what they went through. We were known to sing spiritual hymns. We were known to give codes to each other, to relate to each other and understand each other. It was natural for us. But where has it gone? We are losing our youth. We have lost a lot of them. And so having that communication, that heart to heart, you going out and buying those Jordans, you coming in the house from a long day of work. See, our children don't understand when you're tired. They don't understand when you're exhausted. They don't understand that you have something else to do when you get home. Keep in mind, you've been gone all day. See, me, I can be accountable for my actions. I can. I know that I'm a busy person. I have multiple things that I do. And at one point in time, I tell my husband all the time, I say, I feel like I'm not a good parent. Do y'all feel that way sometimes? Do you feel like you just try to do everything, but it's never enough for them? That's what I wanted you all to hear from my son tonight. See, I've already asked him. I've already asked my son, why is it that when I do this or I feel like I go the extra mile for you, I feel like you don't appreciate what I do? Why do I feel like when I ask you a question, you halfway talk, but you get on the phone and you laugh and joke with your friends? Like it's a totally different vibe. Like you don't understand what I sacrifice, how I have sacrificed, what I have sacrificed to get to this point, what I continue to sacrifice. But I had to realize He don't understand the depth of it. Because the reason why I overcompensate and I fight so much and sacrifice so much is because of what I've been through. We often throw in our kids' face, if you only knew. See, back in my day, yeah, it's good to use that sometimes, but we can't abuse it. When you abuse it and they keep hearing that, guess what they're going to keep doing? They're going to keep shutting down, isolating. They're going to keep doing all of that because we're trying to instill things in them from the past hurts that we have not dealt with ourselves. Let me repeat that. We are instilling things in them that may not be beneficial for them because of the past hurt that we have not dealt with. It's the baggage that was for me. See, I can speak for me. I want y'all to be accountable for yourself because, again, it's that heart-to-heart connection. I want to stop the parents saying, do you know what I do for you? Do you know what I bought you? You know, last week I took you here. They don't care about that all the time. When I was doing counseling with kids, I had plenty of kids tell me, my mom and my dad work all the time. They're always busy. I'd rather have that me time with my mom or dad. And I said, well, what is that? What does me time mean? I wanted to spend time. I wanted to have some family time. So I just disrespect them just to get attention. Or I just cut myself and come here to the hospital so they can come see me. That's the only time I really can talk to them is when I'm in front of a therapist or they see that I want to kill myself. That's what the kids tell me. I've done residential with kids. I have done individual with outpatient with children, ages 6 all the way up to like 18 years old. And when I talk to the adults, when I do the one-on-one therapy with the adults, guess what they tell me? It's not my fault. They got a roof over their heads, clothes on their back, food on the table. I didn't have a mom and dad to take care of me. They got me. So that's good enough. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. We have to dig deeper. That's why we're the parents. That's why we have the sleepless nights sometimes. They don't understand. And that's what my son kept telling me. He was like, Mom, you just don't understand. You just don't understand. I'm like, EJ, help me to understand. Help me to understand. Like, Mom, my friends can relate better to me. And I watch the parents who cross the boundaries and become their friends or their like their sister or their brother, and they start smoking weed with them, or they start having those what's up, my, bruh, and all that gang, all that stuff. They start doing that with them to build a relationship. I would never. They say never, but I would never cross a boundary with either one of my boys. So I can have that heart-to-heart connection. I have to learn how to say, I apologize. I was wrong for that. I should have listened to you better. I want to understand what you're feeling. I know it hurts. I love you. You can talk to me about anything, and I mean anything. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to me, just write it down. If you don't feel comfortable talking to me, go talk to Andre. Go talk to your dad. If you go talk to them, are you okay with them coming to me and talking to me? Because I still want to feel connected with you. Those are the things you need to say to your boys. That's what they've heard growing up, so they feel it's okay to say it to their kids now. Quita, you're right. You're right. And I'm going to advocate for the parents who just don't know. Like you think you're doing the right thing. And I'm not taking away from anybody parenting because Quita, that's a good point. But a lot of times we didn't have positive role models. And I'm not saying that's not my case. I'm not saying that's my case. Let me I stand corrected. But sometimes they say is y'all ever heard of PIE? Person in environment. PIE. You become the person in your environment. Crystal, I know you're probably just getting on. For everybody else that's just getting on too, you all know I'm already 30 minutes in. I always have my special guest on the podcast already. EJ is in DC on a trip. It was a last minute trip that he wanted to go on. He was invited to. And so I had to make that decision to be selfless and not selfish and make him stay here with this podcast because I really wanted him on the podcast. People really wanted to hear from a teenage perspective. And, you know, from a mom to a son, we were really going to get some answers out here to these parents, to these mothers, and to single moms and both parents that's in the home, because we're clueless sometimes as to why they do not effectively communicate. So Crystal, he's not going to be on tonight. I still came on because I just wanted to talk, period. I did have a conversation with EJ. We had a heart to heart recently because EJ made a decision to go hang out with some friends. I'm not going to go into detail. I would never make my son feel ashamed publicly. I wouldn't publicly unless he wanted to tell people himself. But myself, EJ's dad, and his bonus dad, my husband, we give him flexibility and freedom, and that's because I didn't have that. My mom, and she had it for her reasons, and my grandmother had it for their reasons to, you know, to be strict with us, because they knew things that we didn't know, right? And so the same thing now, but again, society is different now. But I wanted to be a little flexible with my son and allow him to hang out with his friends, go to the mall, hang out with them. But as teenagers, when you give them a little rope, they're gonna pull a little bit more. And I couldn't understand, EJ, y'all, man, I live for my kids. I even get emotional saying that. I live for my kids. So I had to make a decision to not be so hard on him and let him go out and hang with his friends. But when I let him go, I'm so afraid of getting that phone call that something happened to him, right? I know we shouldn't live in fear, y'all. I get it. And I pray and I pray and I pray. And I know a God and I trust a God that whatever decision or anything that happens, I know that God has me covered, has my family covered. And I know that he will protect us, and God doesn't make any mistakes, right? And so I tell myself that because I'm a mental person, I prepare myself. But I give my son enough rope, and I feel like I'm flexible enough. Everything, you know, everything that I do in life right now is for my kids, and I'm learning self-care too. But it's to make sure they have a great life, and even when I pass, they still have the means to have a great life, right? Well, my son took that rope and he decided to do something with his friends, hanging out in an area that I wasn't privy of. And he knew that I wouldn't approve of it. His bonus dad wouldn't approve of it, nor his dad would approve of it. I'm not from Virginia. His dad is from Virginia. So he always know the areas. When EJ asks us to go to parties or go places, and when I say EJ, I'm referring to my 15-year-old son. Again, this topic is about effectively communicating with your teenage son and having that heart-to-heart connection. And so they have this, I think it's a 360 app. I didn't put it on my son's phone. I wasn't tracking his phone, but I got a call that my son was not well. No, I didn't get a call. I followed up to see if my son was with his papa them at for his birthday at Golden Corral. They came down to visit. EJ wasn't there. And I said, huh? Why he's not with you all? He had went just hanging out with his friends. He went back to hang with them again. My entire family, they give him the flexibility because they know how I am, but they would still check up with me. EJ decided to go with his friends to an area. And he went to Portsmouth, Virginia. He's supposed to be at a friend's house. He went to Portsmouth, Virginia, and was hanging out with a bunch of guys on High Street by the 7-Eleven. And if anybody knows anything about Portsmouth, um, some areas of Portsmouth, there's a lot of crime. When I heard that, I I'm not planning from what I'm about to say. I broke down crying like I had already received a phone call. My anxiety went up. I was scared. I was nervous. He wasn't answering the phone. So my cousin called him and he told her where he was. And we tried to figure out why he didn't answer the phone from myself or his dad. He already knew. He already knew that we wouldn't approve of it, but his friends wanted to go somewhere. And I talked about how being a follower or a leader, he started making a decision because he wanted to fit in. I said, son, you're not that kid. My son was that kid that whenever somebody was fighting, he wouldn't help them fight. He'll run and come in the house and tell us. Or he'll run and say, call 911. I know my son is not that kid to be a part of certain type of activities. And so he was in the area where when his dad got there, I'm surprised the police wasn't there. It was a bunch of teenage kids that was just hanging around on the block. How did he get there, you all? He caught an Uber. My son caught an Uber from all the way over here to Chesapeake to over there to hang out. And we didn't know. See, he didn't think we would find out. His friends asked him to go hang out. Guess what? Lo and behold, 2 teenagers got killed that night. I said earlier on the podcast, in the early part, I said, I use every moment as a teacher moment. You all, I was crying. I was sad. I was hurt. I'm just afraid to get that phone call, right? And so I tried to protect him and I was trying to explain to him. And he said, Mom, Mom, you being a little extra. And I heard that and it just took me over there. I'm like, what do you mean I'm being extra? What do you mean I'm your mom? What do you mean I'm being extra, EJ? First of all, you get the flexibility. We try to give them the flexibility to do things so we don't put them in the moods of being down, and you don't allow me to do anything. You keep me in the house, you this. So I try to give my son that flexibility that I didn't have, right? Back in the day. But I understand why. And so when he looked at me, he said, Mom, you're making it more than what it is. And I said, son, I have to make it more than what it is. Because I want you to understand that life is not fair. Life is not fair. Society is not fair. As much as I can teach you, instill in you, show you, I'm going to do it until the day I die. I'm going to do it until the day I lose breath in my body. And I just pray, God knows I just pray that my son understands why I'm hard on him. Hey, love, can't stay, but have a great night and live. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. Thank you all for listening to me. You all can give me comments. I see people are up here. Give me some feedback. Anybody up here have teenage boys? What are you all dealing with? How are you all communicating with your teenage boys? What is your relationship like with them? Do you have a heart-to-heart connection? Do you feel like you have lost them? Good night, Sarah. Okay, yes, please catch a replay. Yes, thank you so much. Do you tell the family hello? Tell the dogs hi. We have to catch up. Do you feel like you have lost your son or sons? What are you instilling in them? Do you have that heart-to-heart connection? Do you? You know, those conversations that we need to have with them, it's that it's three different types of parenting styles: permissive, authoritarian, and authoritative. Which one are you? Permissive, authoritarian, authoritative? The permissive style is the parent or parents that allows their child to get away with any and everything. No structure, no rules, no boundaries. Those children, I've seen teenage boys, and I'm talking about all races. You all hear my dogs in the background. I told you, you get the raw and uncut, right? The teenage boys, I have seen teenage boys, and I can tell they have that permissive type parenting. Their mamas in public, their parent would say something, and they'd tell them, "Shut up." I look like this. I say, "Look, I know you're gonna say something. Shut up. What are you talking about? Stop talking to me. You get on my nerves." So look, I'm like, now I'm looking at the parent. I'm not even looking at the teenager at this point. I'm looking at the parent like, I know you're gonna say something, right? Like, I want to come up and say something for you, or knock them, like, knock them to the floor. Like I've seen that, talking to their parent or parents any type of way, and they just sit there and take it. Are you that parent that, with that permissive style, trying to fit in? I'm going to step out there and say it's a culture thing, because you will rarely, with an exclamation point, find an African American parents that would allow their child to disrespect them, curse them, talk back to them, fight them, and think that they're going to get away with it. Nah. I done heard many say, I brought you in this world, I'll take you out. I heard it many times. Now, again, I'm not pulling the race card, but I'm just keeping it real. Okay? Queen, I'm going to get to your comment. Here's the authoritarian parent. They have more set boundaries. They have more rules. They have structure. But they are a little bit more lenient. They are the parent that, when they have rules and boundaries, they explain the purpose for them. They are a little bit more vulnerable with understanding their teenage child. With a rule becomes a set of expectations, because you want your child to understand that when they do something again that wasn't right, they're going to know in their mind, they're going to listen to what was told to them before, right? That's that authoritarian parent. I think I'm more of the authoritarian parent. I'm the parent that will set rules, boundaries, but then we'll talk about it. And I'm going to explain why. You're not going to hear me say, because I said so. Go do it because I say so. I'm not that parent. Now I have that authoritative parent. That authoritative parent is the parent, I call it the drill sergeant parent. And when I was doing counseling with parents, family therapy, we always identified the type of style. So I need for you all to, I've asked questions throughout this live. Do you have a heart-to-heart connection with your child? Are you that parent that just focus on physical, tangible things with your kids and think that's enough? Meaning, I bought this for you, I do this for you, and that's enough, but no heart-to-heart connection. And do you have a permissive parenting style, authoritarian parenting style, or that drill sergeant authoritative style? That's the one that says, look, it is what it is. What I say goes, shut up. They use words like shut up. I don't want to hear it. Do what I say. No explanation. Rigid. Very strict. Straight. That's it. To the point. That's it. You lose a lot of kids at that point because they're going to shut down. They're going to isolate. They're going to look for love in other places. They're going to find peace in other places. They're going to find happiness in other places. So there's a pendulum, permissive all the way up to authoritarian. At the end of the day, it's all about effective communication. How are you communicating with your teenage boys? How? You have to know your culture too. And we have to be culturally sensitive to people. How an African American parent, a Caucasian parent, um, um, parents in the Middle East, over in the Middle East, that culture, and I know this because I've been there. That son is powerful, more powerful than the wife. They love to have male boys. They love to have males, boys. They do because they are part of the next generation. So again, you have to understand culture as well. I have an amazing, Marquita said, I have an amazing relationship with my 17-year-old. I've always had an open door, no judgment relationship with him. I try to meet him where he's at to form better communication and work. To form better communication and for the most part, for the most part, it's work. I get what you're saying. Okay. Quita, and you all, I can agree with Quita. Her son is awesome. Dave is I really wanted to bring him on too because I couldn't bring EJ on because he's gone to DC. He'll be back tomorrow. He's in great hands though. I wanted to bring Dave on because Dave is I'm about to sneeze, I feel it. Whew, whew. Dave is very articulate. He expresses, he articulates very well. He expresses what's on his mind. He is not a follower. He moves at the beat of his own drum. He really does. And that's why I wanted to bring, he was the next person I thought of, but he's in football practice. And so I couldn't bring him on. So yes, Quita, thank you for sharing that. You have to have an open door, no judgment relationship. You have to, because when you start judging them, all you're doing is pretty much projecting what you're going through or what you have went through or what you're feeling. We project a lot in this world. We project a lot. We can be going through something, and because of what we went through from a recent phone call, a hostile relationship, or financial problems, whatever, we would take what we're going through and we will project them on our kids. Look again, I be accountable for myself. I've done it. I do it with my husband. I've done it. I come in the house with a whole attitude sometimes. That's why I sit in the car. I'll pull up in the yard and I will sit in the car to try to pray about it and get it off of me. That thing just want to stay on my back sometimes. And I come on in the house. Hey, y'all. They be so excited to see me. And I'm in the inside like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to be around none of y'all right now. Right? Really. But I project what I feel on them. And I know my 15-year-old gets the brunt of it. I know he does because he has said it to me. He said, Mom, you'll come in and you'll be so excited to see Ezekiel. That's my 6-year-old. He said, but me, he said, you'll hug him. And it's because Ezekiel runs up to me. Like when I walk in the house, as parents, we need that too. And don't get me wrong. I say this all the time. We are the adults. And we have to understand our children and understand that they're not going to react how we want them to react. But when my 6-year-old run up to me, Mommy, oh, he's so glad to see me, that melts me. My 15-year-old used to do that. He's older now, but I'm used to it. And so when I don't get that, I feel a certain type way, or and as a parent, I shouldn't, right? I shouldn't. Again, that's understanding, that's knowing that he's not doing that to me on purpose. He's growing up. He's not see like I want him to be the son that he was when he was younger, when he always ran up to me and wanted to lay on my chest. I breastfed my boys. My 6-year, I breastfed him much longer. I think I went through withdrawals more than he did. So I want that. And when I don't get that from him, it hurts me. So when I'm in the mood, sometimes I'll be like, hey, and I don't give him the same reaction I give my 6-year old. And so he told me how that made him feel. But again, I'm glad because I give him that safe space. And if he don't tell me, he'll go tell his dad, or he'll tell his bonus dad, which is my husband, and then they'll come tell me. And when they come tell me, I'll cry to myself. I'll feel, and again, I'll go back to feel like I'm a bad parent. I go back because I feel like I'm like, am I not doing everything right? Am I not doing enough? Like, but I know I'm doing enough. Yeah, going out here and buying shoes and clothes, and I can't look at that as being enough, right? I can't. So we can't project ourselves on our babies. The abuse, that mental, emotional, and psychological abuse, that sticks with them. And they sometimes they use that, and they go and they project that on other kids. Quita, if he has a day that they don't want to talk, then I ask if he's okay. Anything you want to talk about, he says no, and I leave it there until he's in the mood to talk about it, whether it's the next day or a week later. That's good, Quita. We have to see, sometimes we want things when we want things. What's wrong? Everything okay? See, we're the mother. We know what you're going through. We know I tell my son, boy, I know what you're feeling before you feel it. I already know. I pay attention to your nonverbals. I watch you. Like, I carried you for 9 months. So, Quita, when you leave it there, because we don't want to push them, we don't want to force them. And when you give them that safe place, they'll come back and talk about it. They will. But Quita, what about the ones that don't, the parents that don't have the resources, the parents that don't know how to talk to their kids, the parents that are in abusive relationships and don't have time for their kids, the parents that are working hard to feel like they're not making enough money, so they're working 2, 3, 4 jobs to make ends meet, and they're losing that time with their kids. What about those? What about the parents who's suffering with mental illnesses? See, I can share this with you all. I suffer with chronic PTSD, which is depression, is from that as well. I suffer with that. And with me suffering with that, it has spilled over to my babies. It has spilled over to my husband. That's a whole nother podcast I'm gonna talk about. The PTSD in me that has affected me and my lifestyle forever. See, they say the tongue is powerful, and it is. God has given me the strength to continue and push through, but a second does not go by that I don't deal with it. And so I feel like I have isolated from my family. I feel like I have emotionally disconnected from them. I feel like I don't give them that old me. If anybody know me, I love to laugh, joke, have a good time. I'm more in the serious zone now. I'm always on edge sometimes. I'm hyper vigilant about my surroundings. So when we go out and try to have fun, I got to sit in certain places. I have to do certain things. See, the lifestyle that I chose when I joined the military has affected me to the point where my children and my husband, I'm not going to use the word suffer, but they deal with it with me. That's a part you all don't know. And as parents, when you all acknowledge what your limitations are, when you all can acknowledge what your downfalls are, when you all can acknowledge what you have going on, then it makes your relationship a whole lot better. See, I had to tell my teenage son what I suffer with. I had to explain to him why, but it doesn't make it okay. I have to tell him, son, I'm sorry. I struggle with this sometimes. I might not want to be around anyone. Sometimes I just want to go up to my room. See, they know what my safe place is. And so if they can be understanding of me, if my teenage son can be understanding of me, then I have to be understanding of him. He knows when I go up to my room and I'm sitting in silence, he'll peep in and he'll say, Mom, you okay? And I say, I'm okay, son. Thank you. But I had to communicate that with him. But as a parent, I feel bad about it because I don't even like feeling like this half of the time. So I have to force myself to get out of it because I'm the parent. I'm the parent. And I'm like, why does my boys have to suffer because what I went through, you know? And so that's the grace they give me. And so I have to work on giving them grace. At one point in time, I felt like buying him, making sure he had everything was good enough. Nah, nah, it's not. I would hear my son talk about the stories we had back in the day when I was going to college, and I would take him to the college when I was getting my master's degree. He would be sitting in the back of class, going to school with me when I was getting my degree. Like, EJ is my firstborn, and he's my ride and die. And at the end of the day, I have to have that heart to heart connection with him. I have to. You all, if you need a village, use your village. I have a village. I have an awesome family. An awesome, awesome family. See, that's why I have this podcast, because I'm going to tell you some real stuff. You all look at me, and people often ask me, how do you do it? You so strong. I am mentally strong because I had no choice. See, I have a cleaning company, funeral home. I do entertainment. I'm retired Army veteran, 20 years and 55 days. I help people start their own business, so I do some consulting. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a cousin. I am a friend. I'm a mentor. But I have learned that I overcompensate to mask all the things that I don't like to deal with. And because of that, as parents, we push and we push and we push. And sometimes that cup is so full that when it spills over to our children. And a lot of times they won't say anything. They'll hold it in. They will hold it in. But when they tell you and they release it to you is when it really hurts. See, our kids bounce back quicker than we think. When you become adults, we're the ones that hold on to things, and it's hard to let go. And it's hard to forgive. The kids are the ones that bounce back a lot quicker. You got to capture them before they become teenagers. Because once they reach that identity versus role confusion and you don't get it right with them, guess what? Life will. Life will. I know you all were expecting to have my 15-year-old son up here tonight. I appreciate you all for still tuning in with me. I was going to cancel the live again, postpone it, because my son went on a trip. But I said, you know what? I'm going to be selfless and not selfish and make him stay for this podcast because I know I would have heard it. Well, mom, you made me stay. So those are decisions we have to make. Again, I thank you all. I appreciate you all for tuning in every Thursday at 7 o'clock. And even if I don't tune on, I'm going to try to do short videos, or I'm going to try and post something, whether it's a tip for you all to, and tips on various things, whether it's on advice, feedback. I'm going to leave something for you all. I know I'm going to end with saying this. I often tell my family, I call my Quita all the time and Christy, and I tell my husband too. We don't know the time or day, but I tell you this, I'm ready. When it's my time to go, when God says it's time, I'm ready. I'm gonna tell you why. I know that my purpose, I am living in my purpose, and I am living in what I am aligned to do. I try to help people as much as I can, to the point where I take a lot of people problems here and here. It becomes a part of my energy. I'm exhausted. I would give the shirt off of my back. I would do anything for anybody. But at the end of the day, I have to acknowledge self-care. I have to acknowledge that I have an awesome family that love me. I have great support from my mom. I have great support from my dad, my bonus dad. I have great support from my cousins. I have great support from my aunts, my uncles. My grandmother really built a foundation. We may agree to disagree, but when I tell you we have each other backs, we have each other backs. And I thank you all, friends and family, for helping me with raising my teenage son. Because when I was deployed overseas a lot, I couldn't have done it without you all. I really appreciate it. So because of that, I have a great 15-year-old teenager who's doing teenage things. And I have used my village, and I will continue to use my village. I apologize that he wasn't up here to tell his part too, but he will, and we will. Get that heart to heart communication, that heart to heart connection with your teenage son. If you need help, reach out to somebody. Be accountable for your actions. Let those defense mechanisms go. Live life, love your kids. Tell them I love you. Mean it. Have those tough conversations with them. Show tough love, but continue to love them, and show them what love means. Show them what love looks like in a good way and a bad way. Let them make mistakes and learn from them. Explain to them what those mistakes are. I love everything you said, and I understood all. Love you all. Love you too, Ma. Chick EJ is still dynamite. I love you. Love you too, Aunt Jean. Thank you. Yep, I love y'all. And EJ love his cousin. He does. And that's what we try to do. Keep them close. So you all, thank you all so much. Um, I do not know what my topic would be next Thursday. Um, Again, I really been struggling this past week or two with myself. I've been burnt out. Um, I have to take care of my mental health. I do, because sometimes I just want to just shut down. So give me time to regroup. I wanted to be raw and real with you all, let you all know that you can do it. Tap into somebody who you can open up to that would not judge you. Love yourself first. Give yourself that quiet time. And always remember, keep that heart to heart connection with your teenage child. And to the grandmothers out here that are doing great with your grandkids, those grandboys, those teenagers, keep loving them too. They need you all too. They need the grandparents too. because I learned a lot from my grandmother. And because of what she instilled in us when our parents would take us over there when they went to work, that's why we're so close now. And we understand the importance of family values. And that's the Vines and Ruffins family. We understand the importance of family values because our grandmother instilled that in us. Grandparents, you all rock. Thank you all so much. Parents, continue to hold yourselves accountable. Forget about those physical, tangible things that you buy your kids. They don't remember those. The memories are the times that you hold close with them and the love that you show them. Remember that. Remember that. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Have that heart to heart connection. Follow me on my YouTube page, Talk Your Talk, and subscribe. Please subscribe. I'm going to put that on my page, and please follow me on my Talk Your Talk page. I will continue to post it on my Deborah Vines-Epps page so you all can follow me there. Again, thank you all, and stay tuned for my next topic. Talk Your Talk with Deborah Vines-Epps on Thursdays. Y'all have a good night.